So a few days ago, former Patriot Julian Edelman was on the herd with Colin Cowherd and had some things to say about Aaron Rodgers. So let's listen to this, and then I will give my thoughts.
Let's start with a non-Patriot story. I've always had this belief. Everything in the NFL is something. Nothing's everything. I would rather, with a new O-line and a coach on the hot seat, Aaron Rodgers show up to camp. What was your take on that?
My take is, I know a lot of people do things differently, but God forbid the New York Jets start 1-3 in the beginning of the season, which they start with the Niners, Tennessee, Patriots. Who else? The last one? Someone else, regardless. And we all know that the Patriots are no good, but that defense is still the same defense, and that's who Aaron goes against. If they go 1-3, this is going to be such a big distraction for that locker room because everyone's going to be talking about it. This is New York City. This media. It's a media capital of the world. And you can't tell me, I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan, but if I was in that locker room and Aaron Rodgers wasn't there for 3 days on the mandatory minicamps,
having played 4 snaps last year.
Having played 4 snaps off of an injury when we have 2 new receivers, we got a bunch of new linemen that we added to the team, with a CBA that doesn't allow us to practice a lot. I guarantee there's 4 or 5 guys, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys in that locker room sitting there like, where's he at?
Where's our star quarterback?
Where's he at? Now, if they start 4-0, no one's going to care.
That's right.
But that's the NFL. I think it's a bad look for your leader, for whatever reason, to go and miss an unexcused absence. I mean, I was with Tom Brady in his 25th year or 23rd year, and he started missing OTAs here and there, but he was still there, never missed a mandatory minicamp. And, I just thought it was a bad look.
Yeah, that's how.
Okay, so first off, when he talks about, the Jets, of course, winning solves everything. No one cares. If you're 4-0, people could care less, what practices you were there for, what practices you weren't there for. And if we're just being real, if the Jets start 1-3 and Aaron Rodgers had been at mandatory minicamp, odds are, the media would find something to bash Aaron Rodgers for. That's just my guess, considering how I feel like they've covered Rodgers for the past 3 to 4 seasons. That's just what I think would probably take place. And again, I've said on this channel already that I think missing, a few days of minicamp is not that big a deal. I know Julian Edelman, former NFL player, says he thinks it is. And so I do take that into account. But previously, I saw LaShawn McCoy and James Jones, both former players, talking about how they don't think minicamp is that important and how, James Jones did not think Rodgers missing camp was that big of a deal. And it would be one thing, I think, if Rodgers missed OTAs and, had not been there for all of OTAs, because he is still, new to New York, even though he came in last season. He was there for OTAs last year. And of course, when he goes down, he misses the entire season. If he hadn't shown up for OTAs, I would say that's a bigger problem. And I would always love every player to be there at all times. I think it's good for the team. But with Aaron Rodgers in 2021 with the Packers, he missed OTAs, skipped OTAs and minicamp, comes in and wins MVP in 2021. So my whole thing is, this is not going to be the factor between the Jets having a, insanely great season and the Jets being one of the worst teams in the league. I don't think minicamp is that big of a deal. And Julian Edelman brought up Tom Brady, where he missed some OTAs but didn't miss minicamp. But let me show you this tweet I found interesting from RG3, who said this the other day. The GOAT Tom Brady skipped OTAs for 5 straight years starting in 2018. He missed 2 months of practices and showed up for 3 days at mandatory minicamp. Was he not a leader for missing 2 months? I don't have a problem with either. They have earned the right to take time off. And so that's the thing. Rodgers was here for all of OTAs. Brady missed OTAs for lots of seasons. And there was even that time a few years ago where I think it was when Brady was with the Buccaneers, where he missed like 10 days of training camp. And, I think it's fine if you have a personal thing and you need to deal with that. If you're Tom Brady, I think it fully is understandable. But if Aaron Rodgers were to miss 10 days of training camp, can you imagine, the media, the fire that would take place because of Rodgers missing something like that? And so I'm not surprised with the reaction with Aaron Rodgers missing minicamp. I think that, he's been a pretty controversial figure over the past few seasons, and I do think the media likes to, talk about him. There's no doubt about that. And so I'm not surprised that this caused a big story. But I just think at the end of the day, this is not going to affect the Packers in their season, just like Tom Brady missing OTAs for, years did not really affect the success of Tom Brady and their team. Okay, now let's continue here.
Oh, I look. And to your point, everything in New York's magnified, which is why it's a cautionary tale. If you go look at the history of New York, the guys that succeed grow with the city. Jeter, Eli Manning, Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
When you bring in a star, A-Rod, that's a prime example. It's harder because the expectations from day one are through the roof.
Yeah, and what people don't realize, you can't win games in the offseason, but you can lose them, because this is ultimately where you gain your fundamentals. And later on in the year, you rely on fundamentals in high-stress situations. That's what you're going to naturally fall on. And so when you're a young receiver and you haven't played with the quarterback, and then you're going to go into training camp and things are going to be coming a lot faster, you have the pads on, it's going to be tougher for that continuity for that whole unit. And also with the linemen, I mean, you know, when you're a receiver during practice, those reps are so crucial, because say you get something, you run a route and you catch the ball. The more important thing is after practice, when you watch the film and you guys communicate on what was good about that, what was wrong about that, and that they're not going to have any of those reps. And I know it's just 3 days and he was there for organized team activities, but you know, there's not a lot of practice time right now, and practice is crucial. Practice execution becomes game reality.
That's great. Also, this is why I thought it was a poor decision. Veteran offensive linemen do not take snaps in the preseason anymore. So September now, Julian, for veterans is a little bit like week 3 of the exhibition season.
Without a doubt.
You're kind of playing your way into the season.
And what is Aaron Rodgers? What's one of his strengths? His cadence. You know how hard it is to get a guy's cadence down on the, offensive line when he's barking, screaming. Like, I'm going to be interested to see these pre-snap penalties early in the year, because Aaron relies on that cadence. He's one of the best to ever do it. Yeah. We used to call, one of the cadences Green Bay, because we get a guy jump offside, try to get a free play. And Aaron's great at that, but that takes time to get guys on the right page to understand his voice and his inflections. So, I hope everything's good in his camp. I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan, but it's not a good look.
Okay, so at the end of the day, you would rather every player be at every single practice, but 3 days, in my book, it's not going to make a big difference on the Jets and their 2024 season. And I feel like if you're Aaron Rodgers, he had to know that him missing mandatory minicamp would cause such a craze in the media. I just think we've learned that Rodgers doesn't really care how the media is going to react to anything, because if that's how he was operating in his life, then he would not say lots of the things that he says, because it's not really popular out there in the media. And so I think that Aaron Rodgers is probably, not really worried about the reaction. I think that if you're Robert Saleh, if you're the Jets ownership, you probably just would rather Rodgers be there, because first off, you want to have your leader there. But second off, you just know what the media is going to do. And now Rodgers has, in a way, given the media something to, if the Jets are playing poorly, they could say, oh, well, he missed minicamp. This is why the Jets are not having a good season. But I do not think that's going to be the reason. If the Jets do have a bad season, it's not going to be because Rodgers missed 3 days of minicamp. And here's the thing. The New York Jets, they were 7-10 last year with the 29th ranked scoring offense in the NFL. You look at the passer rating for their quarterbacks, combined with Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle last season, 70.5, which is one of the worst in the league. A year before that, you put together Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Mike White's passer rating for the whole season, 75. And Aaron Rodgers in 2022, when it was a down year for him in Green Bay, with dealing with a broken thumb, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, he had a 91.1 passer rating. So a down year for Aaron Rodgers in 2022 with the Packers was much better than anything the Jets have had the past couple seasons at quarterback. And so even if you get an average Aaron Rodgers in New York, which I think he's going to be better than average, I think he's going to be fine this next season. The Jets are going to be, I think they're going to be a playoff team regardless, just because of how good their defense is, and even bringing in Aaron Rodgers, you're going to take a jump because of how terribly your quarterbacks have been performing the past couple of seasons. So those are my thoughts. If you want more NFL content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.